Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and today I want to talk about this whole thing about Braun Strowman and from my passionate video from yesterday of Braun Strowman basically essentially getting screwed yet again from the main event scene, and compare it to Becky Lynch, who is just as over as Braun Strowman is, but obviously is, as we've seen, getting more appreciated than Braun Strowman is. So, I'll talk about and compare the two, basically. So, Braun Strowman, as we all know, he came in and he was a badass. He was like the anti-hero character. He's so bad, we all love him. Roman Reigns was a guy that people didn't like. They didn't like how he was being jammed down people's throats. And, Braun Strowman came in there and, people just were into him right away. And that one of his best matches was against the Big Show, where two big guys going up against each other is very, very unlikely, because it's just the function is just not there, because they both usually have the same move set, when you're two strong men. And so Braun Strowman adjusted his style so he could have a really solid match with Big Show. And he played the athletic role, really, which was really surprising for someone his size to being able to do that. It was a phenomenal match for two big men. I said it when it happened on free television for Monday Night Raw a couple years ago. That was probably one of the best big matches we'll ever see, because two big guys like that typically don't really have good matches because their styles are too much alike, and they usually have a very basic, similar moveset in their arsenal. And so I felt that was probably the best big match we'll ever see in the WWE, probably ever in wrestling. So with Braun, he was someone that the fans really liked because he was over, he could wrestle, he could pretty much adjust his style, as we've seen with the Big Show when he wrestled the Big Show. And so he had all the tools. He had the character, he had the look, he had the muscles, which Vince McMahon likes, of course, as we all know. So he has this. He has that it factor. And, of course, there was this whole bulk heads with Roman Reigns, because WWE wanted the fans to like Roman, even though the fans liked Braun Strowman more. And they were cheering for him over Roman, obviously, because no one wanted to cheer for Roman. So that's where this all started with Braun. Now we get into Becky Lynch, which that started recently, actually. It started last year at SummerSlam. And Becky Lynch was supposed to be was supposed to turn heel. And it's kind of, interesting looking back on it. I'm really happy for Becky Lynch. I'm very happy she won the Royal Rumble. I'm glad at least one of the two Royal Rumbles went the way it should have went. But Becky Lynch, she wasn't WWE's picked girl or picked woman to be the guy for the women's division, so to speak. She is the man. She wasn't picked to be the man in the women's division when they started this revolution. Yeah, she was brought up with all the other four, as they call them, four horsemen. I personally think there's only a couple in that horsemen's that are actually great wrestlers. But she was brought up, and you got people like Charlotte Flair, you got Sasha Banks, you got Bayley, and you got Becky Lynch. Now, the three before Becky Lynch were really the ones that WWE felt could be the champion. I believe there was an article a couple of years ago that I read that, Becky Lynch was just basically a backup plan in case one of those three got injured. And it kind of shows because Becky Lynch, when they did the brand split, she went to SmackDown, and the three others basically stayed on Raw originally. Charlotte was originally on Raw. Sasha was originally on Raw. And I think Bayley was originally on Raw, too. So they were all originally on Raw. Becky Lynch went to SmackDown, and she became the first SmackDown Women's Champion because they didn't really have that many girls right there, women wrestler at the time on SmackDown. So it was just easy to just put her on there since they had no plans to having her be the Raw champion anytime soon. So they basically moved her to SmackDown and they gave her the new SmackDown Women's Championship title. She eventually lost it a couple months later to someone who WWE were surprised by, who got called up to the SmackDown roster, and that was Alexa Bliss, who came on the rise. So once Alexa Bliss showed that she could, be one of those top women competitors, they took the belt off of Becky Lynch and they put it on to Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss ran the SmackDown women's roster for a while until she was drafted to Raw. And pretty much after that, Becky Lynch was once again in the back burner of everything. She was the, back burner women wrestler now, and even on SmackDown. Couldn't, go to Raw and be the girl. Now she was on SmackDown, and she couldn't be the woman. So then, it's basically now, I think it was 2 years later now. We go 2 years later, and Becky Lynch still is trying to win back the SmackDown Women's Champion and hasn't gotten to win it back since. And now we have Charlotte Flair on SmackDown, and you have Carmella as the champion, and of course the triple threat looked like Becky Lynch was going to win it. And then what happens? Charlotte comes in, takes the credit, and wins. And, of course, as we know, Becky Lynch turns heel on Charlotte Flair, but everyone cheers for it. Everyone is behind Becky Lynch because for so many years, for 2 years, they wanted to see her win that belt back. But WWE weren't utilizing her anymore. But they really wanted to see her win it. And so when she turned heel, it lighted a fire because fans didn't see her as turning heel. They seen it as someone like Charlotte Flair who constantly gets opportunity after opportunity. She was inserted into the title match, which was originally Becky Lynch's title match, and now it was a triple threat match. And so many people were behind Becky Lynch because she's had all these opportunities and they've screwed her out of them because management doesn't want to make her champion. And then you have Becky Lynch, or not Becky Lynch, you have Charlotte Flair, who basically has handed all her opportunities because she's daddy's girl. And you cannot deny to me that it's not because of Ric Flair, because it absolutely is. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. Charlotte Flair would not be where she is right now if it wasn't for Ric Flair. And that is a fact, because look at Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is a far better wrestler than Charlotte Flair. She is a far better wrestler than Charlotte Flair, and yet she loses the title every time after she wins it. That doesn't happen to Charlotte Flair. So there's that whole aspect as well, too. And so people are sick of her getting everything people are sick of her getting everything handed to her. And so they cheered for Becky Lynch. One, because she's not getting anything handed to her. As a matter of fact, she's getting de-pushed for 2 years. And people were sick of it. And so when they seen her turn heel, they really embraced it and essentially turned her babyface. WWE tried their best to continue doing the heel turn for the first couple of weeks of the turn, but ultimately it was to no avail and just continued for fans just continuing to cheer for her again and again and again to the point where they had no choice but to make her an anti-hero. Of course, surprisingly, the next month she won the SmackDown Women's title back from Charlotte Flair, which was another surprise move that they did. But why? Why did Becky Lynch right away get her push, and Vince McMahon embraced her right away, but not someone like Braun Strowman, which was essentially the same pretty much angle storyline? Roman Reigns, Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is essentially the Roman Reigns of the female division. So why is Becky Lynch getting all this attention from Vince McMahon and Triple H, and in the guys division, Braun Strowman is not getting the same love from Vince McMahon and Triple H? Here's why. You see, WWE is in a women's revolution, and with them being in a women's revolution, they are trying to make a transitional stage. They're trying to make it so women basically are on the same stepping stone as men in terms of booking and where they're aligned on the card. You get what I'm saying? You're already starting to see women getting their own Rumble matches. They're getting their own Chamber matches. They're getting their own Money in the Bank matches. Now they're going to be getting their own tag team champion soon. Very soon, in the next couple of years, I guarantee you they're going to have a mid-card title. They're going to have either they're going to have a women's United States champion, or they're going to have a women's Intercontinental champion. Who knows? But eventually that stuff's going to happen. Okay? So WWE is in this transitional mode where they're trying to get guys and women on equal footing. If you noticed at last night's Royal Rumble, when Seth Rollins sadly won the Royal Rumble over Braun Strowman, you didn't hear them say main event. If you got to watch this back, they didn't say that Seth Rollins is going to WrestleMania to be in the main event. Now, in past years, they used to do that, including last year. They said that they were going to be in the main event. They didn't do that this year. Even when Brock Lesnar had beaten Finn Balor, they didn't say, now Brock Lesnar will be in the main event of WrestleMania defending the Universal title. They didn't do that this year. Alright, in past years with Brock Lesnar, when he has defended the Universal title or the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, they have said that he is in the main event by the time he has won the title at the Rumble. They didn't do that. It's because this year, the main event is going to be a women's match. And it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. Becky Lynch will jump to Raw to go up against Ronda Rousey for the Raw women's title, which she is allowed to do. It's going to be kind of weird since she just lost to Asuka cleanly, which I think was a terrible move by WWE, by the way, to have Asuka win cleanly like that. If you're going to have Becky Lynch lose, I would have much rather her lose than a screwy type finish. A screwy type pinfall finish, not a tap out. Like, I would never have let Becky Lynch tap out at the Rumble. Have her lose in some screwy type finish would have made more sense. But that's what I would have done. But the point being is the women are in a transitional mode, and Vince McMahon, he needs a woman wrestler that's over with the crowd, like extremely over with the crowd, and that's Becky Lynch. He knows he has someone that the fans really like and are behind, and that's why he needs her to be the one to beat Ronda Rousey. Because Ronda Rousey is going to lose at WrestleMania. she is not keeping that title at WrestleMania, whether she's going on vacation or not. Because I know a lot of people are just say because it's on vacation. No. She's losing that title regardless. They need Ronda for the stardom because she's already a star with the UFC stuff and whatnot. But they need someone from their company that's a women wrestler that isn't a UFC star or any of that stuff that they can build around as their first ever marquee women wrestler. Now, a couple of years ago, they tried to do this with Bayley, and it failed because her gimmick is one-dimensional. And no one likes it, and the crowd was dead for it or booed it. So that failed, and they've tried it with Charlotte Flair a little bit too. That didn't work out, as we all know. It hasn't worked out. So Vince McMahon has been trying to genuinely find a marquee woman to market around as like the new, or I should say the first ever, marquee woman wrestler, because they've never had to do this before. They never had a women's revolution. Yeah, you had your fabulous Moolahs, you had your Trish Stratuses, you had your Litas, and you had your top women's in the past, but those women's were never positioned to main event a WrestleMania. Those women's were never positioned to main event a pay-per-view. The best that Trish Stratus ever got to do was main event a Monday Night Raw, which was still a huge momentous occasion, don't get me wrong. But they are positioning it so these women, where they're trying to position it where women wrestlers are basically on the same footing as men. So it's never like a guarantee that a men wrestler is going to main event a WrestleMania or a woman is going to main event a WrestleMania. It's going to always be a wild card. It's going to be all up for grabs. And they're in that transitional mode. They're trying to get it to that point. And the only way they can do that is they need to have a fan favorite, massively over women wrestler. And they have it with Becky Lynch. They didn't plan it to be Becky Lynch. That's for damn sure. Having her be a heel. But the cards fell aligned. And because of that, they're running with it. They're running with it. And that's why she is getting more attention than Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is someone that deserves to be in the spot that he should be getting, and that's the Universal title. But the problem is guy wrestlers, that is the norm. It's the norm for a guy wrestler to be over or not over, because there's been many main events of guy wrestlers before, for pay-per-views or WrestleMania. For women wrestlers, there hasn't been. So it's easy for them to go with someone like that because they need someone like that. They need a female, marketable character that the fans can fans can build around, and that's Becky Lynch right now. And so that's the unfortunate side of this, because, as we all know, Braun Strowman should be the Universal Champion. But Vince McMahon's not as pressured to push a guy wrestler because he can push any guy wrestler, as we all know, because he pushes Roman Reigns even though no one wants Roman Reigns to be in the main event. So, with females, it's still selective. There's not as many, and there's not as many megastars for females out there, besides the past, like a Trish Stratus or a Lita, who are long retired. You need to build a new star so you can marquee them as that woman. And obviously, it didn't work with Bayley, and it has not worked with Charlotte Flair. So, you got Becky Lynch, and let's hope WWE doesn't screw it up. So far, they are embracing it. And this is also why it kind of annoys me with WWE, is because WWE can run with a character. They've proven that despite the fact that they didn't like how Becky Lynch turns heel and the fans loved it, they embraced it. They embraced her character. They embraced the fact that the fans, despite the fact that they didn't like the fact that fans were cheering for it, they eventually got over it and they started embracing the character as an anti-hero babyface. And so now she's going to be main eventing WrestleMania against Ronda Rousey, and most likely, I'm 99.9% sure she is going to end Ronda Rousey's wrestling streak in the WWE and take the title from her. Because you take the title from someone that's a badass UFC star, that's going to immediately put you as one of the big time, wrestlers. And so that's what they're doing right now with Becky. And Becky essentially is going to be the face of the women's division for years to come. For years to come, she is going to be the face of this. Thing. She's going to be the one that they're going to market around. I guarantee you, she's going to be like John Cena, in terms of merchandise for females. She's going to be the one that everyone's going to market it when you come to seeing female wrestlers. When you come to see female wrestlers in WWE, the merchandise is going to be Becky Lynch and then whoever the guy wrestler would be, That's what it's going to basically be, because they need to have that. They need to have that marketability, so it's like it evens itself out, where there's no guarantee that a guy or a girl will main event a pay-per-view. It's no guarantee. It's you'll never know for sure, basically. So that is basically the difference. It's really unfortunate because Braun Strowman freaking deserves it and is getting screwed again and again and again. But unfortunately, this is just how WWE does this. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you see any different comparisons? What do you think about this whole issue? Comment, rate. If you like this video or my videos, please subscribe. And that's about it, guys. I'm the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.